Hey everyone, it's Cory McCarthy, and welcome to another live Q&A event. I'm just going to start waiting for people to start coming on. It usually takes a couple minutes to get the viewers to begin jumping in. But in the meantime, for those who are watching this in playback, you'll hear this ahead of time. The next public live Q&A is going to be on the 18th of March, because again, I'm doing these every other week public. And if you'd like to join in on the private Q&As, which tend to be very raw and very uncensored, and sometimes very unpolitically correct, you can do so by supporting me over at Patreon, which I have linked down below. And then, you know, if for next to nothing a month, basically, you can hop on board and be part of those private Q&As, which have been interesting so far. You can also access the previous Q&As that I have done over at Patreon as well by joining up. And for as little as $2 a month, you know, that's, you can't even get a coffee for that price anymore. And the next private patron Q&A, Patreon only Q&A is going to be on the 11th, so next Sunday. That's how I run these. I do a public Q&A, then a private, then a public, then a private, every Sunday, so it alternates. If you are a member of my Patreon, obviously you get 4 Q&As a month. If you're, just a member of the general public watching my channel, you get 2. So that's how that situation works. So I got viewers coming in now. I just want to let you guys know. There's also something I didn't know I had. Guess it's activated now. There's a super chat feature. It's a little money sign down on the bottom. So apparently if you guys use that, you can donate to me and show your support, but at the same time, it highlights your comments or questions or something. I don't know much about it, but apparently it's enabled. So I just noticed that it was enabled today. So I'm just pointing that out to you guys, that there is a super chat feature, apparently. It's a little money symbol down there. So let's roll on over and see what the questions are. I hope you guys can hear me. Hey, Jack, what's up? Keyboard Warrior says, hey there, what's up, Keyboard Warrior? Let's see here. Slithering Vegan Ishiego. I'm probably pronouncing that shit wrong. Make more videos and pack the Patreon. People are free to, there's no obligation to join my Patreon, but if you'd like to show your support, it's definitely one way to do it. So it's next to nothing. What I have on there. I have different tiers. You get like workouts if you go to the high tier. But there's a middle tier where you can do live voice chat with me, where you can actually interact on the public Q&As as well. And there's also a lower tier where it's just joining the private Q&As, having extra Q&As per month. IJOP says, Athlean X commented on easy bar upright rows being detrimental to shoulders. Wide grip version as well. Any comments? There was a study on upright rows. Now, I recommend upright rows, but I recommend doing them a certain way. Okay, there was a study on upright rows that they found that a wider grip was healthier on the shoulders. What they mean by wider is outside shoulder width, was healthier on the shoulders, and it activated more traps, and it activated more of the side deltoids. It's also, all upright rows are going to activate the rear delts to some degree, but the wider you go, the more you're going to hit the lateral side deltoids, and the more you're going to hit the traps. Now, my advice with upright rows is do not bring them up to your collarbone. Bring them up to about the sternum. You don't need to go much higher than that. Lyle McDonald actually talks about this as well. You don't really need to bring it up much more than the sternum. So basically just getting your point to where your shoulders are sort of looking like a kind of like a top of a lateral raise when you go to just parallel, not above parallel to the ground. So that's really that's the way I perform them. I don't go much higher. That I do feel pinches in my shoulder joint when I go higher than that. But hey, listen to your genetics. If upright, I have worked with people. There are people that are at my gym who get advice from me, and they've tried upright rows. They've tried various variations of upright rows. Variations, slurred my word there. And they found that they all hurt their shoulders, so they just avoid that exercise altogether. And that's fine. If you can't do them, you can't do them. But that's my advice: is toy around with the wider grip, slightly outside shoulder width. And I don't know about easy bar, but I mean, I use an Olympic bar at the moment, and I go outside shoulder width. I put like my fingers, my pointer fingers, right outside the outer ring that's outside my shoulder width. and that's where I hold it at, and I bring it right up to the sternum. So I'm going to move to the next question. Slytherin Vegan at Shago says, you get enough money, you're a full-time YouTuber. I don't really earn money. First of all, I don't know if you know much about how YouTube works, but it's even if you have a lot of, just a little note to everybody, YouTube, a lot of what I do on YouTube here is a labor of love. Okay, let's just put it this way. Like, most of my videos are instantly demonetized by YouTube because I swear, or because I'm doing unpolitically correct content. Even some of my vegan videos are just instantly demonetized for whatever reason. Videos that I think are otherwise harmless, and then you put them into a process where you try to appeal, and that can go for 2 to 3 weeks, and then they might just reject you, you know, after a manual review for whatever reason. They don't have to tell you why. They don't have to tell you why. So don't think that just because I have, like, or anybody has an XYZ number of subscribers, even people who have hundreds of thousands, if their if their videos aren't getting a lot of views, or they're not being promoted by YouTube, they're probably not making a living on YouTube. It's not anybody who thinks you can make a living on YouTube. It's the top tier people who do. You know, so don't think that most YouTubers are making a living. They might be at best supplementing another income. You know, that sort of thing. So, yeah, that's all I'm saying. And that's why I do have a Patreon. So if you want to show your support, that's why I have it. And you get perks for doing so. Moving forward, Aid says, hey there, Cory. How many servings of spinach and cruciferous vegetables do you recommend a day in grams if possible? And thanks. I do 200 grams a day. I do what equates to about 2 cups, 2.5 cups of each. And I get them frozen because, you know, people are always asking, how do you get vegetables for a more affordable price? Well, the best thing I can recommend is to get them frozen. Buy your veggies in bulk, frozen, and cook them from there. And they store longer that way too. And it's just more affordable. The more things like fruit and everything you can get frozen, do so. Now, some things like apples, bananas, oranges, they're really cheap, fresh. But anyway, that's kind of a sidetrack, but I get about 2.5 cups of cruciferous vegetables and spinach per day, even when I'm keto. So that greens are a heavy part of a ketogenic diet, or even in this case, a vegan ketogenic diet. Jack Green says, finish that collab with Isaac. The collab with Isaac is in the works. Isaac and I actually just talked last night about the collab, and he mentioned that he has I guess he's finishing something else up on his end, and then there will be the Cory McCarthy Ask Yourself collab. There's actually probably going to be a couple things that we've discussed. One is there's going to be a collab where we're going to smash intersectional veganism, because I personally think, and I think he believes the same way, that SJWs have infected veganism, and it's a disease, and it needs to be trampled out. So we're going to take those on in our collaboration video. And then there's going to be some kind of either a live discussion or live debate that I'm going to be involved in. It's going to be me and Isaac and some dude. We're going to be talking to some dude. I don't know who this dude is, but apparently he's a guy who's considering veganism, but he's afraid also from a bodybuilding perspective to go vegan. So Isaac's pulling me on, I suppose, as the bodybuilding expert to talk to the guy. So that's coming up as well, or at least that's been discussed, but that's not been scheduled yet because we're working around all 3 of our schedules. And, you know, some people have tight schedules. So Isaac might be a little looser than the other 2 of us. So, but we'll see. Moving forward, Slithering Vegan at Chiego says, I love doing upright rows. Yeah, upright rows are a great exercise as long as you're not hurting yourself with them, but they're great for the lateral delt. They hit the front delt as well. They really smash the rear delt. In that regard, they actually, according to EMG, they activate more deltoid heads than any overhead press. You know, now that doesn't mean you shouldn't do the overhead press. I think the strict standing overhead press is an excellent exercise for building strength. It should be a part of your core lifts, you know. But on the side, I do also do upright rows. I do face pulls. You know, basically, if you look at my program that I have down below, like at the ebook, The Upgraded Man, that is a heavily strength-based program. I built that to basically make you look like a bouncer. You know, big, jacked motherfucker, not necessarily ripped, but somebody who isn't going to take shit, doesn't look like they take shit. It's got a lot of neck work. It's got a lot of trap work. There are upright rows in that program. And that's an example of what I'm talking about. You know, it works in the core lifts. It also works a lot of accessories that are going to give you that fucking yoke to look. As opposed to my Beast Mode by Science program, which is more of an aesthetic program. So I do have 2 programs down there available for purchase if you're interested, and I've linked below. Jax asks, Cory, do you know or watch a right-wing YouTuber named Survive the Jive? I don't. To be honest, I don't really watch a lot of YouTubers. I catch some every now and then, but I'm usually kind of out doing my own thing or something, and I don't really watch a lot of YouTube. But there are some people I catch every now and then, or I'm directed to watch, and I watch a video by them. But yeah. So I don't know Survive the Jive. I think I've heard I've heard the name before, but I don't know their content. IJOP asks, best exercises for core are ab wheel and general back exercises. Right. For core, the 2 best. Now this is based on EMG, so take it for what it is. You know, EMG gives us a sense, but it's not necessarily definitive. But it gives us a better sense than just going by, hey, this feels right to me. Well, that's valid for you, but maybe not generally speaking. So when they do these EMG studies, they did find that for core, the ab wheel, in every study I've seen so far involving the ab wheel in comparison, the ab wheel is the best abdominal exercise that exists when it comes to activation according to EMG. And I've seen at least 3 or 4 different papers about the ab wheel, and it always comes out on top. Even Brett Contreras' work, his EMG work, which is pretty popular, it shows the ab wheel to be pretty much on top as well. It basically, the ab wheel really combines, you know, a leg raise with a sit up with a plank. It's like it combines the best of all of those worlds into one. Now, obviously, you can make the ab wheel easier. You can make the ab wheel exercise harder. To make it easier way, the way I recommend you start, because even I can't even do it the really difficult way, and that is you roll out from like the floor on your knees and roll out to like a full position and then roll back up to your knees. But as you get better, there are some people out there, some really gifted bastards who can roll out from a fucking standing position. They literally bend down and roll right out and roll back up to a standing position. It's crazy. Now, I can't even get like a rep with that. I'd probably fucking fall or tear something, but it's something I'd like to work myself up to. Slowly but surely. I'm not just going to jump right into it. So I recommend, if you are starting with an ab wheel, which I definitely recommend, and it's in all of my programs for a reason, you start with going from the ground. Just work on your knees first, and then work up in strength and flexibility from there, and ability from there. The next best ab exercise that I've seen is the hanging knee raise. That definitely comes in pretty high in the EMG ratings. And then I think the decline sit-up, or was it I think it was a leg raise on an incline bench or something was the next, when I looked at the EMG studies for this. As for lower back, obviously, you know, do things like deadlift, do things like your hyperextensions, you know, those are great exercises. Bent over rows, use your lower back as a stabilizer. Those are great exercises for that, you know, spinal erector muscles down there. But yeah, you know, that they're all part of a complete program, especially a strength program. You want to basically work out all the kinks in your body. Moving along, Amy Asbury says, what is all this that I hear about onions? I don't really know for sure. There's a lot of stuff I keep hearing about onions. I can tell you they're anti-aging. They have a lot of antioxidants in them. The common thing I'm hearing lately is they boost testosterone. Somebody who watches my channel, who actually got the idea to take Tonkat Ali from watching one of my videos. And again, I want to emphasize, testosterone boosters, don't think of them as like replacements for steroids, or if you have a medical condition that they're a replacement for TRT. The most they might be able to do for you is, if you're a healthy guy, is boost your fat burning potential a little bit. You know, they're not going to do much for muscle. You know, So you're not going to get steroid-like gains from them. But this guy, for whatever reason, did take Tomcat Alley. He also was eating onions and something else. I can't remember what the other product was. And he showed me his testosterone blood test, his blood results. And it looks like the onions cause like a 25% boost in testosterone, look like total testosterone, from his baseline, from where he was before. And he did this after like a month or something. But I'll have to look at the chat again. And then he also took Tomcat, and that boosted his free testosterone by like 27%. Now, again, this is anecdote, but you know that he was just thanking me for the advice that I had given. But that's what I've heard about onions, that they can do something to testosterone. But like I said, don't expect steroid-like gains. It might help you with fat loss if you are in the low normal range. If you're in the upper normal range, it probably won't do much at all. You know, that's kind of how the testosterone boosters work. They optimize, you know. So that's the best thing. You know, that's what the best they can really do. If you are suffering from low testosterone, like your subnormal range, you should get TRT. You should talk to a doctor. That's a medical condition. Let's see here. Nick says, bring back the best vegan bodybuilding food series. It was a gem. You know, I might do that. I'll have to think about another good vegan bodybuilding food and do a video about it. It was, you know, meant to be an ongoing series, but, you know, I get kind of like video ADD where I sort of just kind of jump around and do different things that interest me in a given week. Anywho, Artem asks, hey, Cory, any news on Kasha? No news yet. I haven't tried it. Let's see. Rebirth says, hey, Cory, how have you been? How goes the vegan fight? I'm not sure what you mean by the vegan fight. Just like being a vegan, the day-to-day being a vegan, it's going great. Been doing it for a while. It's like second nature at this point in time. Aid says, hi, Cory, again. What are your thoughts on nicotine vaping? It's known to be a neurotropic, and that can increase working memory and learning and attention. I don't use nicotine. I don't remember the exact reason. I don't smoke, first of all. It's bad for your health. But there was some studies I read back, I'd say about, my God, about 6 years ago at this point in time. There was a craze going around, especially in the keto crowds, where they were using nicotine chewing gum. Even non-smokers were using this to get a fat-burning benefit from nicotine or something. I don't know. I looked briefly into it, but the risks from taking nicotine on your body, on your health, and I believe there's a cancer risk from it, outweighed any benefit I thought was worth doing. It's the same reason I don't take steroids. It's like, first, if I can achieve what I want to achieve without steroids, then there's no point in taking them. Second, I don't want the negative effects. I'm not a professional. You know, I don't play any professional sports or do anything that I'm making a living from that it's worth that risk, you know, to my future health, or even shortening my lifespan. Let's see. Johnny D says, would pelvic exercises help stop night emissions? I don't know. I have to look into it. I have read a bit about pelvic floor exercises being good for increasing the strength of erections, and good for sex, and good for people who have issues with ejaculating during sex. I have read about that, but that's about the extent that I know about how they work, or even really how to perform them, to be perfectly honest. A lot of the pictures you see look like people doing lunges and shit, and I guess they're flexing something in that region while they're doing a lunge. I don't know. I can't tell you. I don't have any issues where I'd have to consider using that, and so I haven't really looked into it too much. Let's see here. Jack asked if I like Cliff Bars, my favorite flavors. I used to eat a lot of Cliff Bars at one time, like maybe 4 years ago, but I haven't really had a lot of them since then. I just haven't bought them for any reason. I just eat other foods. Nick says, by the way, why haven't you done more of the live stream debates? You and Isaac would be a pretty deadly combo. I am planning to be involved in some live stream with Isaac. I just mentioned it earlier, against some, I don't know if it's against or it's more of a discussion. There's some guy, some YouTuber Isaac is asking me to join in about, who is interested in veganism, but his hang up right now really revolves around his bodybuilding. So Isaac wants to bring me on as sort of like the expert, so to speak, of that area for the discussion. Now, it might turn into a full-on debate. It might start as a full-on debate. I'm open to any of that. I don't really mind. Yeah, I don't really mind, to be honest. I mean, I've had debate challenges, but they've been from retards. So I don't really waste my time with that sort of thing. Like there was this guy called Jerry Ward, not the real Jerry Ward from BioS 3, but some guy who was using his name in his avatar. And he challenged me to do a debate about soy, but the guy was just a fucking retard. So I'm not going to waste my time with that. It would be like stealing candy from a child. But then again, he would be too stupid to realize he even had his candy stolen. So I didn't even bother with that at all, even though he just continued a barrage of insults at me, but I just fucking ignored him. Yeah. Let's see here. Somebody's asking me if can I play Slendy Tubbies. I don't even know what the fuck that is. ADAS, what are my current supplementation regimens and recommendations? Well, I mean, the basics that I would say are a good multivitamin, multimineral, especially if you're on like a ketogenic diet or some kind of restrictive diet. For instance, like if you're dieting to lose weight and you might not be getting as many calories and you might be missing out on something, to fill in those gaps, I do have a 1 a day vegan multi. I use a Diva product. It's like $10 or something for like, I think it lasts like 3 months. It's pretty cheap, maybe 2 or 3 months. A B12. I take a D3, and D3 is good for anybody who's not getting a whole hell of a lot of sun, you know, or people who have trouble absorbing the D3 from the sun, you know, people like that. People, you know, blacks, for instance, might do well supplementing D3. People with darker skin in general would probably do well supplementing with the D3. But yeah, I mean, D3 is another one. I think I already mentioned B12. The omega-3s, like you can get an algae oil based DHA EPA product. I use a Source Natural product. It's like $30 a month, 25 sometimes you can get a good deal on it. Another one would be you know, eating flax seeds every day. Get a tablespoon of flax seeds ground up. You know, I guess you can consider that a supplement. It's still food, but creatine is a good one if you're a lifter, and especially if you're a vegan or vegetarian. Because they've shown that vegans and vegetarians get more benefit from creatine than meat eaters. But you may even be a bad responder, but there is a benefit to taking it. And really, those are the big ones. Beetroot powder, if you're interested in a good pump, you know, it's got nitrates in it, which can help you procure a pump in the gym, get good vascularity. If you're lifting, you want that look. You want to get that pumped feeling as well. Those are just some examples right there. It really depends on what I'm doing. If I'm ketogenic, I do take a little bit more because there are a lot of gaps to fill in because vegan keto is very limiting. So that's really when I would do a lot of a lot of extra supplementing. Let's see here. Aaron Huzak, I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, asks, hello, what is better? 1 rest day on the middle and 1 rest day on the end, or 2 in a row on the end? Thanks. Whatever works for your schedule, to be honest with you. Whatever works for your schedule. I tend to program, and this is what you'll see in my ebooks, for instance. I tend to program like, you know, Monday on, Tuesday off, Wednesday on, Thursday off, Friday on, Saturday on. And that can even vary too. Like in my Beast Mode by Science ebook, it goes through phases. So there's different, you know, schedules every week. Sometimes you might be back to back a few days, 2 days on, 1 off, 2. But you know, 3 days a week in one case, I believe. So, you know, but in my upgraded man program, it is more of like an upper lower sort of thing where it goes Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, and you're off on Tuesday, Thursday, and Sunday. But you can move those if you wanted to be like Tuesday, Thursday, Sunday, Monday if you wanted to. You know, you can move it around. But really make the splits wherever you feel helps you recover best, I suppose, if you're building your own program. Like for instance, I wouldn't put a deadlift day and a squatting day back to back. Really, I wouldn't do that. I give a little break to your lower body. Maybe you don't have a problem with that, but for me, I find that works best. So really, work with whatever program you feel works best. Cory, where would you? This is from Rebirth. And it looks like rebirth. It's actually re-3 Earth. Cory, where would you move if you didn't live in New York City? Wow, I don't know. There's so many options. I've considered parts of Europe. I would, if I'm living in the States, I'd like to go to some place that's more of a red state, or someplace at least like highly libertarian. There's a lot of options, especially in the Midwest. Even here on the East Coast, there's a lot of options. But basically, I would want to go somewhere where you can have firearms, you can carry firearms. You know, in New York, you can only have firearms in your home, but you can't carry them in the street unless you have concealed or open, unless you have a special kind of permit, which is almost impossible to get, I've heard. And even with carrying knives, you can have pepper spray, but you can't have mace. You can't have tasers. You can carry knives, but they have to be under 2 inches, I believe, here in New York. And that's in the city here. Outside the city, it's a little bit different. Like upstate, it's a little bit different. But the more the red the state, obviously, the more freedoms you're going to have, the more, or enjoy rather. And I'd rather live in a red state, you know. So there's a lot of options, you know. And I guess I'll have to think about that when I consider when my move and when I'm going to leave. But it's definitely, I'm getting tired of this fucking city, to be honest with you. It's spiraling down a shithole. And furthermore, it's just the taxes. The taxes, they rape you here because it's such a welfare state that they fucking rape the shit out of you in taxes here. But hey, you know, socialists love that shit. Most of them probably even paying fucking taxes, but they're just reaping the benefits. Moving along. Stefan says, second on the vegan bodybuilding foods. It was introduced me to your channel. Have you thought about producing a best of playlist, both for food and particular exercises? You know, I had some playlists going, but I kind of like just stopped adding to them. I guess I could like clean those up or start some new playlists. I think I had one about aging, one about sex, and one about lifting, but I don't remember. But I might have to clean those up. If people really want playlists, because you know a lot of these things take time to put together. So if it's something that's going to be useful to you guys, it's worth consideration. But if it's something that maybe only 1 or 2 people want out of like my, you know, 17,000 whatever subscribers, it might not be really worth doing it for that reason, because it's just not going to be useful for most people. Remember, this channel really is a labor of love. YouTube has basically fucked me in the monetization department, and I don't expect it to change, because I'm not gonna, you know, I am the person I am. I'm not gonna change myself for YouTube, for like, you know, so they can throw pennies at me. Matt B says, how do you recommend I stop obsessing over women when I'm single? Well, I guess the first question is, Matt, do you want to remain single? Like, if you're happy being single, then you probably shouldn't be obsessing over women. You know, I guess you can't help being a guy who's attracted to women, but you're probably not going to be obsessing so much if you're happy as a single guy, because you're going to be enjoying the benefits of being single, as opposed to, you know, longing for, pining for a relationship or pining for a girl. But if you don't like being single, work on not being single. You know, if you have a girl in your life, you're not going to be obsessing over women so much, because you'll have a girl with you and you'll be getting, you know, access to that benefit. So I guess it really depends on what are your goals. Do you want to remain single? If you do, you know, focus on the benefits of why you're single and why you like being single. And if they outweigh having a girl, keep at it. If you don't want to be single, work on not being single. That's my best advice for that, really. I'm not really a relationship expert. A lot of what I know about relationships comes from my own experience, and I've only ever been in long-term relationships, so don't ask me for, like, you know, advice on how to pick up chicks at a bar. I don't know the first fucking thing really about that, except that I'm sure confidence plays a big role. That's not a game I play. You know, so I understand a little bit from my own experience, I guess from observation, common sense, and there is research on the topic too. And as you guys know, I'm research-based. So I do even research how to fucking talk to women. Yes, I have done so. Nick says, why do you think right-wingers are so quick to dismiss veganism as SJW hogwash? Because there's a lot of SJW hogwash. Like I said earlier, veganism has been infected by SJWs. I've actually had people fucking say that you can't be a vegan if you are right-wing. You can't be a conservative vegan. I've heard liberal and left-wing vegans say this. Now, they're more of the extreme variety, sure. Just like the extreme right will say, like, oh, veganism is for fucking lefters. You know, but the thing is that there's nothing in the definition of veganism saying it's got any political ties whatsoever. It doesn't say you have to be liberal. It doesn't say you have to be conservative to be a vegan. So it's just people inventing their own take on the matter. And it doesn't help that we have a lot of mentally unstable, you know, SJW, far left extremists, not to pigeonhole just left-wingers in general, because there are normal-minded left-wingers, but far left, weird fucking Marxist extremists that just soil everything. They're a fucking disease. And they make us look batshit crazy because, of course, I guess like the old saying is, the squeakiest wheel gets oiled first. So they're screaming and the loudest, and they're being heard. So they seem to represent us, unfortunately. Yeah, so that's my take on that. Let's see here. Moving along. Let's see. God, there's a conversation going on by two guys on here, Artem and Rebirth. Aaron Husak asks, do you think I need to do rows for back thickness? I already deadlift heavy 6 sets a week and do heavy weighted pull-ups. Thank you for answering our questions. You could just build a great set of lats. EMG data on deadlifts shows they fucking hammer the lats. They really freaking hammer the lats. But they actually hammer the entire posterior chain, but they really do blast the lats. They blast the traps. You could get a good back with deadlifts. But I always recommend some kind of a vertical and some kind of a horizontal row as well. So a bent over row and a chin or a pull up. And I would prefer a chin or a pull up to a pull down, but some people cannot do pull ups. And while they're working on pull ups, they might want to get a little bit of volume from some pull downs. So maybe they'll do a few sets of pull ups or chins to failure, and then they'll throw in a couple sets of pull downs just to fill in some of that volume. But I do recommend rows as well. I mean, they're good. They're good exercises as accessories to your deadlift. They're good exercises for, you know, giving your back maybe a little bit more development as well. That's my take on it. You can get a really good stretch with pull-ups and chin-ups as well. You can with a row too. I feel like you can't get quite the stretch if you're doing like Pendlays, for instance, but you can get a good stretch with the bent over row. You can get a great stretch with one arm rows. I like getting that stretch at the bottom and then pulling to a full contraction at the top. I really like feeling the stretch and contraction. It just feels, you know, more complete to me. It's probably just total bro science, but it feels more complete to me. But there is some truth to it because the stretch reflex is one of the mechanisms of hypertrophy. So obtaining that stretch under tension is an important element of hypertrophy. Brad Schoenfeld discusses this, as does, I believe, Brett Contreras discusses. A number of guys have talked about the mechanisms of hypertrophy, and one of them is the stretch. The stretch reflex under tension, that is, you know, incline curls, flies, that sort of thing. They are useful exercises. Anywho, Nick asks, what do you think of Xi Jinping, president of China, attempting to do away with the term restrictions? Do you think China is in for another Maoist fuckfest, or have they learned from their history? To be honest, I'm not really following a lot of the politics of what's going on over in China. To be honest with you, I'm just not. So I really have no opinion on the matter. Let's see here. Let's move along. Wow, there's a lot of arguing going on. Sheldon Peters asks, could you discuss your thoughts on vegan toothpaste? Thanks, Corey. I use a Tom's toothpaste that is, it's got a vegan label on. I get it from Whole Foods Market. It's a non-fluoride toothpaste. I kind of just buy based on taste, really. Like you know, and mouthfeel, I suppose. I like when I brush, I like to have a real kind of, I like to feel like it's doing something, like it's frothing up. So there's a number of toothpastes that I've used. There's one by some Indian, like an Ayurvedic toothpaste that tastes like, it tastes like licorice, and I like licorice, so I've used that before, and it has a really good mouthfeel. I forgot what the freaking name is. I think I've talked about it in a video somewhere, or mentioned it in the Q&A. I just can't remember the name of the product. And the other one is Tom's. I've used Tom's products a lot. I also have used tea tree oil toothpaste before as well, tea tree based toothpastes. I stick away from fluoride based toothpaste. I'm not really a toothpaste aficionado, to be honest. I'm just telling you what I've used. Let's see here. Aaron says, I will support you buying your books one day when I'm able to afford them. Hey, Aaron, no rush. You can get a lot of advice from just my channel as well. But for people who want to have like these concise books or up to date in the research, I do offer those ebooks for those folks who want to. Actually, Upgraded Man is only like about 16 bucks. It's actually not all that expensive. Relatively speaking, it's actually it's cheaper than some books you can buy online, you know, if you want to buy a hard book. But anyway, there's no obligations. You can do what you're able to do, obviously. And I appreciate any support. And to those who have purchased my ebooks, I really appreciate the support. Mark says, did you see the video posted recently, the negative effects of training on women's health? No, I haven't checked that video, but a lot of Varg's videos are just mindless pseudoscience drivel. Like his attacks on veganism. You know, women, look, there are some effects on women's health. For instance, vigorous training can cause menstrual cycle disruption, which can cause fertility issues. There are women, for instance, who, you know, in ballet or in gymnastics who do not have a period anymore. And their coach actually makes it, that schedules their training in such a way and pushes them in such a way that doesn't happen, because I guess they see it as a hindrance. I know that below a certain body fat percentage, I think with women it's below 18%, periods can become more sporadic and your fertility can become all fucking whacked out. So my advice always is, you know, lifting is very healthy for everyone. It fights cancer, it fights aging, it improves your quality of life, it improves your hormones. It does a lot of great things, but there's no reason, unless you're a competitor, to get like absolutely fucking diced, you know? So women who are going below 18% who aren't competing, it's almost like, why? You can look great at 18 to 22%, you know? And for guys, I've showed you guys research. If you aren't competing, like if you aren't going to step on stage, you need to be like peeled, you know, you'll look your best. According to women, you'll look the sexiest with muscle at 12% body fat. That was the sweet spot. And it was a relatively large study, and it was on fertile women. So keep this in mind. The women who are looking for sex, who want to get pregnant, who are looking for the most masculine, attractive guy they can get their hands on, found 12% body fat in men to be ideal compared to all the other ones. Now, the healthy range is between 10 and 20%, I believe, or maybe 8 and 20%. I've done some videos on this as well. But 12% is that sweet spot for guys to look your absolute fucking best. But obviously add some muscle, because you're going to improve your looks with that too. But being muscular at 12%, you'll be fuller. You won't feel tired. You won't feel like your testosterone's not going to crash. You know, so your hormones will be healthy. You'll be able to enjoy the body you've worked on and the positive effects it's going to have on your social and sex life. Let's be real here. So 12% body fat is not absolutely peeled. Hey, but it's what fertile women think is attractive. So, you know, this obsession with the things that can harm your body, like getting shredded to the point where your skin looks like a ball sack, it's absolutely, it's just ignorant. I mean, unless you're doing it for finances, like that is your livelihood, I see no point in potentially harming yourself, because there could be long-term consequences to it. Vegan Gains has talked about getting himself peeled before and not being able to get an erection for months. So, you know, there are negative consequences. I've heard of guys needing TRT because they spent too long at too low of a body fat percentage, and it fucked up their hormones. You know, so there are side effects, this sort of thing. So just be careful. Be careful. And it's why I don't advocate steroids. You can get a great body. And I've done videos. Look at my recent video about Hollywood actors and steroid use. The truth about steroids in Hollywood, or whatever I called it. It was a few months back, before the new Thor movie came out. And I did a video about this. And check that video out. You can get a good body with years of dedication. Like, you know, just 4 or 5 good years of dedication, really lifting, really working on progressive overload, And you don't need steroids. This takes a bit of time and consistency, dedication, but you'll have the long-term benefits without those consequences by trying to cut things short. And that's why I advocate doing the work. And you'll be more fulfilled too. You'll appreciate it more. So you'll have that sense of appreciation for your hard work. Anywho, Jack says, "Hey Cory, if you ever want to live extra cheap, rent in Thailand is only $100. I can imagine like Philippines is pretty cheap too, but I just don't have any interest in living in that kind of climate. I mean, it's like fucking nearly 100% humidity, hot as shit. You know, I would just sunburn to a crisp and end up with like looking like Durian Rider. You know, keep in mind, guys, that I'm not that much younger than Durian Rider. You know, people confuse me for, you know, somebody in his mid-20s a lot, but I'm actually not that much younger than Durian Rider. So, but he just he's always out in the sun, you know, and sun can age you. And anyway, that's a side point. So there's a lot of reasons why I wouldn't want to live in Thailand, and that and some of the corruption and shit is some of the reasons for that as well. It's just a lot of corruption and crime and, you know, that sort of thing. Moving along here. People are still talking about Kasha. Wow. Yeah, Matt says toothpaste aficionado, laugh out loud. People are like, sometimes I think they expect me to like be like a master at things. I can give you on some things my own recommendations, but I know a lot about some stuff, but there's a lot of stuff I don't know shit about. So, you know, I don't want anybody to get the impression that I'm like some know-it-all. I'm not a know-it-all. I'll never claim to be a know-it-all. You know, there's a lot of things I don't know. There's a lot of things I don't understand. I'm just very red in certain areas, and there's other areas I need improvement in. We all have areas that need improvement. So I think being humble is an important thing. And when you're wrong, you admit you're wrong, if you really are wrong. And then you try to correct yourself, because you can't always be right. And don't even try to always be right, because that's got to be a headache and a stressful thing anyway. It's got to raise your cortisol, which is bad for your health and bad for your aging. Johnny D says Varg's wife Marie admits that she is deficient on B12, yet he argues that vegans don't get enough and are too weak. Varg spews a lot of fucking nonsense. I have shown research data from the Framingham health study. It's a long-term study being run out of Massachusetts here in the U.S. Obviously, here in the U.S. Why did I say that? On various things actually, but they do. B12 is involved in the study as well. It's kind of like, I guess, the EPIC study in Europe, but here in the U.S. And they found that something like 36%, I think it was around 36% of Americans are either deficient or below deficient in B12. There aren't even that many vegans in America. So what that tells you is that even with eating meat, you're not guaranteed to get B12. This is why I keep saying people should supplement with B12, because everyone should consider that. It's a water-soluble vitamin. You'll piss out the excess. It's dirt cheap, and you do not want to suffer the consequences of being deficient in B12. You do not want to suffer that. Not just the fact that you could die eventually, but there's blindness and a whole number of really fucked up things that can happen you know, if you are deficient in B12. So do not let that happen. You know, whether you're a vegetarian or not, supplement B12. It's real cheap. It's real easy. Drop the ego. You know, it's not just vegans that can be deficient in B12. So sometimes people's ego can get in the way of their health, you know, because they don't want to be wrong about something. And this is what goes back to saying you can't always be right. Don't try to always be right. If you're wrong about something, recognize you're wrong, correct it. And your life will, in a lot of ways, be better for that. So keep that in mind. Turkey General says, Cory, you and Jack should do a live stream sometime. I'd be up for that. I'll do a live stream really with anyone who isn't a dick. You know, there's a lot of dicks out there. So I have to preface that, because there's some people I'm just not going to even associate with, because they're just fucking cunts. Like, you know, it will never happen, but, you know, I would never do a live stream or any kind of collaboration with Unnatural Vegan. I think she's a dishonest bitch. But hey, you know, from what I'm understanding, from what I'm seeing going on with the Isaac situation with her, she's a dishonest, avoidant bitch. And I'm shocked that anybody even follows her. Not because I think people should go unsubscribe from her, but because I don't play that kind of game. But I'm shocked that people can't see through that, you know. And they follow somebody who is such a just that kind of a person. It blows my fucking mind. Anyway, let's see here. Nick says, what do you think of the adaptogen supplements like rhodiola, ginseng, ashwagandha, etc.? They seem reliably, modestly boost performance as well as other health benefits. I have banged on and on about how much I love ashwagandha. It's just for its stress lowering and cortisol lowering benefits, which can have a positive effect on testosterone. Because think about it, higher cortisol can lead to lower testosterone. They kind of like, it happens like that. So if your cortisol goes up, your estrogen goes up, your testosterone comes down. Now, taking ashwagandha isn't necessarily going to give you steroid results. No, it's not going to do that, but it can help optimize. I use that word a lot because it seems like it's more appropriate. It's more truthful. It can optimize your hormone balance if you are suffering from specific conditions. And it has been shown in numerous placebo-controlled, randomized, double-blind studies to actually have an effect on stress and on cortisol levels after like a month's use or something, or 2 weeks to a month's use. I personally use ashwagandha if I'm going through stress in my life. You can't help stress. Stress sometimes comes around. You can't stop it. It's going to happen. We're all human beings. We can be subjected to shitty things going on in our lives. You know, it could be a breakup. It could be somebody dying that you care about. It could be something at your office, your job, or whatever. You know, it could be any number of things that cause drama in your life. It's just part of being human. We all take these shots every day, some of us more than others. And an herb like ashwagandha can help you at least biologically on the inside not damage yourself as much from these occurrences. It is a way to help buffer a bit. It's not perfect. It's not going to cure all ailments, but it will help buffer some of the damage it might cause by the high stress. And that's the best I can say. And if you are somebody listening to this is going through that stuff, hang in there, man. We've all gone through it. I've gone through some really dark shit in my life, and I've come out. So you can too. There is light at the end. Even in the darkest situations I've been in, there's been light at the end of the tunnel if I just saw it through. So yeah, I love adaptogens and I love things like ashwagandha. It's a great product. I highly recommend it. Get a very good extract, like a full spectrum extract, like the KSM 66. It's very well researched, and I highly recommend it. It's like Syzus for your joints. I recommend Syzus as well. Some of these supplements are valid. I think they're very valid. Moving along, Corey 8 asks, what are your thoughts on cooking sprays and water frying? Never really tried water frying. I guess I'd call it more sauteing because you're not really frying anything. But I do use cooking sprays when I'm low fat. I buy them from Whole Foods Market. I use like a coconut oil or canola based cooking spray. That's I just kind of spray on and let it go, and then it's just sauteed pan frying. And I've done videos on this. You can see my most recent day of eating video. I discuss using cooking sprays. Let's see here. Keyboard Warrior asks, how do you react when talking to an intellectually dishonest person? I try to just ignore these kinds of people because there's a lot of them out there. There are a lot of fucking nutty people who really just want to bring others down on YouTube. They're shitty people themselves with shitty lives. And I think some of you probably can guess who I'm talking about here, who just pick on other people, especially in the vegan community, and just try to bring them down because they themselves are just fucking washed up losers. And it's the truth of the matter. Just fucking washed up losers who aren't trying to better their lives. They bring everybody else down around them. That's what they do. But yeah, I ignore those kinds of people. Ignore them. Even if they say horrible things about you, I guess debate if you want to, but sometimes it just feeds the fire. So I guess ignore those kinds of people. There are people who comment under my videos with really dishonest kinds of statements or just say really stupid, shitty things. I just blow it off. You just got to let some of that stuff roll off you because you don't want to waste your time with that or even bring that shit into your life. It's only going to cause you to need ashwagandha. So let's move along here. Thoughts on fluoride? Foggy Flatland says, Thoughts on fluoride? Thanks for answering. You are one of my favorite YouTubers. Q&A is not too often, but always quality. Thanks, man. There is, I don't want to sit here and jump on the boat of being the person who says, you know, that, oh God, there's like some conspiracy to poison us all with fluoride. But I am seeing some questionable, like, I know there's an intake range where it's acceptable, but I mean, are you drinking? It also comes down to how much are you consuming in tap water, how much are you consuming from your toothpaste, and from other areas. Are you getting too much from all of that? And there are negative effects they're showing on IQ, eventually IQ in developing children. And anybody who wants to say IQ isn't important, higher IQ has been associated, it's correlated at least, with more quality life outcomes. It's not to say that there aren't people with high IQs that just aren't successful, because there are. But having a higher IQ is associated with a higher quality of life and better outcomes in life, making more money, being more successful. A nation with a higher IQ it's associated with a better rule of law, better democracy, better quality of life. So a higher IQ is not, so basically damaging your intelligence, or damning a child to lower intelligence, potentially through fluoride, just seems like a bad idea. So I just use fluoride-free products like the toothpaste and things like that. Just try to not take in the excess, because I'm sure I get it from my drinking water. I don't really do anything special with my drinking water. I just use a Brita filter to filter out the other contaminants that I can from the water, but I don't have like a fluoride filter or anything like that. So, and I don't purchase a bunch of bottled water either. So, long answer, but that's the best I can say. And as for Q&As, if you want to get involved in more Q&As, you can join up my Patreon for as little as $2 a month. It's linked down below, and I do an extra 2 Q&As, private Q&As on for Patreon users every month. So you get 4 a month as opposed to just 2. Let's move along here. Let's see here. There's a lot of kind of talking going on between folks, which is fine. I'm just trying to get past all that. Flugy Hopper says, how and what do you recommend training while having a broken arm? I never trained with a broken limb per se. I have had a torn TFCC, and I trained around that. I found, and I was getting physical therapy at the time from a sports medicine doctor. I found that as long as I didn't use underhand exercises, I was fine. So basically everything was neutral grip for about 7 or 8 months. And then I began to slowly do things with a cambered bar or machines that had a cambered grip. I really started with machines because less stabilizers. It seemed to be less wrist in flare-ups. And I was using this thing called a wrist widget for a while. How it worked, but it seemed to help stabilize the wrist a little better when I was lifting. Anything that helped me lift a little better when I was going through that tear that I had. And I was able to train, but I had to find ways around it. Now, there may be things like it with your break you just simply can't do. Now, I'm not a doctor, so I would advise you talk to a physical therapist, a doctor who's knowledgeable about exercise, and tell them how important lifting is to you, and ask them if they can help you find ways to enjoy what you enjoy doing, your lifting, and make progress in that regard while you're waiting for the bone to heal. That's my best advice. I don't want to tell you what exercises to do because I don't have any experience there, and I'm not a doctor, and I don't want you to hurt yourself with something I might advise. That's why I don't really want to go into too much detail. So that's really my advice. That's the best I can give you, really, right now. Feel better, dude. Matt says, who do I look up to for inspiration in life? I mean, it really varies. Like, when I was younger, I guess I looked at a lot of action heroes for inspiration. Like, that's what got me involved in the martial arts. I was obsessed with, like, Jean-Claude Van Damme and Dolph Lundgren because they were really parts of my childhood, and especially my my teen years, really. Arnold Schwarzenegger movies, that was all kind of inspirational to me back then. Now, You know, it really depends on what aspect of my life. Musically, I have bands that I look up to. I have musicians that I look up to and have inspired me to play instruments. Martial arts wise, there's folks for that, for various reasons, be it finesse, technique, etc., just brutality even. I don't really have any lifting idols at the moment because I'm not as obsessed with bodybuilding anymore. I'm kind of more into like I don't want to say powerlifting because I'm not looking to compete, but I'm interested in more strength-based training now, combined with bodybuilding. So I guess like power building is a good word for it, because I'm sick and fucking tired of my bench press sucking ass. So I wanted to build that up, basically. With these long ass arms, I wanted to build my bench the best I possibly could. And I was tired of just doing all the bodybuilding work that felt like it kept my bench sort of stagnant. And I've been having a lot more improvement with bench and overhead press, standing overhead press, since doing more of a power-based focus. Again, it's the foundation of the upgraded man, which is based on research for strength improvements and everything. So I use research-based programs. I craft stuff based on research studies. That's what I do. And then I use them on myself. I use them on, you know, other clients, and then I bring them out in ebooks when I have something quality to share. That's how I operate with that. Foggy Flatland says, Cory, ever tried the grenade pull-up or those pull-ups done with so-called finger loops for forearms and finger strength? No, but I do use these grenade balls. They're called the Grenadier grips. They also have globe grips as well out there. But these grenade is like ball-shaped attachments that you can put on the cable, a handle, a D handle, or you can put them on your dumbbells or barbell even. And I use those for lateral raises, and they feel really, really, really incredible. For whatever reason, they actually I feel like there's less stress in my joint and more muscle activation with those. And that's just anecdote, but that's what I feel when I use those. I actually got the idea from Dave Tate of Elite FTS in one of his powerlifting articles. I believe Dave used to be a member of Westside Barbell, but I do read a lot of powerlifting articles now because I'm getting more into that strength side of things, not just the aesthetic side of things. I feel like that from where I'm at now, that's going to be more important to improving myself. But hey, we're all in different places. Fanglord says B12 is not bat water soluble compared to other B vitamins, so it's mostly excreted through feces, not urine. Fair enough. Fair enough. Oh, my computer's telling me that it's about time to shut down. So I'll take one more question, then I'm going to move along with this and the chat. I'm just going to go random slam down. Let's see here. Aid says, sorry to annoy you again, Cory. I really appreciate your input. Do you recommend ashwagandha in powder form or extract in pill form? I've done both. It tastes a little fucking weird in powder. It's a little earthy, but if you can get past that, it's fine. Put it in some water, pinch your nose, and swallow it back. I take it in pill form currently. I have a bunch of you know, pills I bought in bulk and veggie capsules. I actually ordered from India, and that's what I use when I take my ashwagandha. So I'm going to wrap it up there, guys. Thank you all for tuning in. The next live public Q&A is going to be on the 18th of March, so 2 weeks. Next Sunday, for those who join up on my Patreon, there'll be another private Q&A, and those are going to be very raw, very uncensored, and a lot of times very un-PC, because a lot of questions that don't come here come there. So if you want to join up there, feel free. Thank you guys for tuning in, and I'll see you all in the next video, and I'll see you all also hopefully on my Patreon and also in the next live Q&A. Take care. Thank you all for tuning in. Have a good weekend.